You are known as the master of clarity.
Hi, my name is Dolores Hirschmann, and I am a coach, entrepreneur, writer, and speaker.
Dolores, what is clarity?
Clarity is not having everything figured out, is not having the clearest map of your life. Most people seek clarity, so they sit back and wait for clarity to happen. But clarity is not revealed from a passive place. Clarity is revealed in the action of the action. Clarity is kindness.
Your experience working on the TEDx platform. What's your verdict on the platform?
It was never intended to be a platform to act on ideas. The world has evolved. There's so many other outlets, there's so many other ways. It's still a valid platform, but it's not the only platform anymore.
Why do you think we don't communicate what we want?
If you're really asking that question and you're really answering it, what we want can be scary. It's never going to happen. I don't deserve it. We are creating out of fear. We're creating out of outrunning our competition. We're creating out of getting the next client. We're creating from a place of lack. Let's bombard your inbox. 100 emails in one day or in 3 days so that you can buy and it's the last chance. Have the courage to understand what you want.
In business, we're always asked for clear messaging, clear value proposition, and clear goals and KPIs, and many other clear things to make the business work. But what is clarity? How do I master clarity, and how clarity affects my personal and professional life? Today, I'm joined by the master of clarity, Dolores Hirschmann, in a thought-provoking conversation on clarity, pull and push energy, hustle mode, and the value of communicating your ideas and wants. This is the thought-provoking conversation worth tuning into. Thank you and enjoy the episode. So I have this kind of opening that, something that I wanted to open up with, and these are your words, right? So I found this on your website and it just stuck with me, so I wanted to quote this. Your words matter, how we communicate matters. If you want something, you have to communicate it well. Why do you think we don't communicate what we want, and what can we do about it?
I love that question. I think that words matter, and also I'll expand. Words create. The words we use will create an experience for others and for ourselves. Even when we talk to ourselves, you could say the words we talk to ourselves or the thoughts we have are composed of words, and you can be constructive words or destructive words. And what gets in the way of proper communication is all of ourselves that we haven't spent time with, worked on, explored, discovered, or listened.
Right.
And so, when you hear someone speak and you know that they are, let's say, they can be in a job interview, trying to put the best foot forward.
Right.
And then they start talking and they are shooting themselves on the foot. Why? Because they have stuff, self-confidence stuff, self-worth stuff, whatever stuff that they haven't processed. And so they think they can manage it. They think that they're two different parts of the brain. One is the one that holds the emotions and the thoughts and the beliefs. And one is the part of the brain that composes words. But the truth is it's only one brain. And so it's almost like you're trying to cook the best meal and your fridge is dirty or not stocked with the freshest ingredients. Fresh thoughts, fresh words. Old, unprocessed, maybe low vibration thoughts, low, unprocessed, low vibration words.
What do we do to change this? What do we do to help, or what do we do to actually communicate what we want?
Yeah. And you would think, I'll get someone to coach me on how to talk, right?
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, true. Yeah, at some point you should. But first, go do your internal work. First of all, get clear on what do you want. On your own piece of paper, not showing it to anybody. Because the truth is, what we want usually is scary. If you're really asking that question and you're really answering it, what we want can be scary. Because we might look at it as too much, too ambitious. It's never going to happen. I don't deserve it. And so first is have the courage to understand what you want. That's the first step.
Hmm. People don't allow themselves to want because they think that whatever they want is wrong. It's like, it's wrong for me to want this. It's wrong for me to ask this. It's wrong for me to think about this. But very often it's just the basic instinct and the one that you can be confident with, and you can be fine with that. You are known as the master of clarity. Dolores, what is clarity? Can you explain to me?
Yeah. So clarity is having. So a car at night drives 60 miles per hour down the highway, and pitch dark, with the only light of the headlights about half a mile ahead of the car. You don't know what's coming next, but you can see right there, and you have full trust, confidence,
right,
that the next inch of the road will be revealed as you go 60 miles per hour. You don't slow down.
True.
Because you cannot see over there. Clarity is not having everything figured out, is not having the clearest map of your life. On the contrary, clarity is having enough knowing, and I'll define knowing in just a minute, for you to keep moving forward at 60 miles per hour confidently. So what does knowing mean? Knowing is knowing and knowing. I call knowing as, I believe that our intuition, call it our gut, call it whatever you want to call it, is probably faster and more knowledgeable than anything that your brain can process. And so having enough knowing of what you're walking towards, and it's a combination of that intuition and the knowing and your intellect, of course. Our brain is super useful. So the combination of that gut feeling, that intuition, and what you've learned, the facts, combined, give you the confidence to keep moving forward, understanding that you'll never be out of clarity if you trust that process, because the next inch of your road will be revealed as soon as you take the step. But what happens is most people seek clarity, so they sit back and wait for clarity to happen. But clarity is not revealed from a passive place. Clarity is revealed in the action of the action. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
clarity reveals itself as we walk the walk.
Like with the car, you could explain with lights at the car, right? So now, can you explain to me how is like having how does it impact my personal life, having or not having clarity?
Let me give you a very easy example. And I mean, now looking back, I realize what I did. But back then, it was just being me. So in my 16, 17, 18, 20-year-old, like young adult, right? I was coming from teenager to being an adult. I don't know why I did this, but every time I would look at a family, I would observe, or a couple more likely, I would observe the interaction between the partners, the husband and wife, or the partners. And I had a mental running list. I never wrote it down. A mental running list of the things that I observed that I liked and the things that I observed that I didn't like. And in some way, I was getting a clear idea of what type of partner and partnership I wanted to build. And so when I met my husband, there was a resonance in how we were together. I mean, again, it wasn't a on paper list, so I can't say it was this checklist, that kind of thing. But there was a very clear kind of vision, if you want, of what type of marriage I wanted to have. Who would be the person next to me? And I don't know that I knew at the time, but I so clearly remember my mental list, because I remember where I was standing, where I was sitting, where I was, who I was interacting with when I made notes of what I wanted or what I didn't want. And so that clarity has helped in building a marriage that is now 26 years. Is it perfect? No. Are there moments that is like, what was I thinking? Sure. It's part of a marriage, right?
Right.
But in its essence, I was clear what I was looking for.
I've talked with John Barrows yesterday, and he gave an interesting example of when you wanted to get married, you're not looking for the perfect match right off the bat because there's no perfect. But what you are doing is once you start kind of dating or living in with someone, you look at how your marriage is progressing and how well you're getting in together and what you're learning from it. And then it should be better every time. So when you are on your wedding day or your wedding night, it shouldn't be your perfect day or your perfect night. It shouldn't be the peak of where you guys are, right? It should be just the beginning of the journey.
No.
So it should be better from there for these things to work, right? So as you said, there should be clarity, but it shouldn't be the clarity for the entire, I am clear that this is the person or this is the perfect day for my life and this will be better or the best every day. No, it should be clarity I have a clarity for the day or the week, right? But let's see what's going to happen, what surprises are going to have in a month or...
And this was in our wedding vows. We made a commitment to build a family together. At that time, we didn't have kids and we didn't know we would have them. We hope we did, but we didn't. But two people are a family with or without kids.
Right.
Or a home. And that in our vows, we vowed or we committed to our own evolution. And so the day you got married, you married that person. But I guarantee, and I mean, I think my husband would say the same thing. Today, 26 years later, he is not the person I married at all. And I'm not the person he married at all.
Mm-hmm.
But we made a commitment to grow together.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was so I wasn't looking for the person I would be married for the rest of my life. I was looking, does this person have the ingredients to partner with me for the rest of my life? It's like I think, especially if you marry young, I was 25, you marry the potential of the life you can build together.
Mm-hmm.
And a good marriage is a marriage where the other person can realize themselves.
Right.
Like we support each other in realizing ourselves.
Right. That makes total sense. So this is an example of clarity in a personal life and the benefit that it can bring. And you gave an example of your husband. If I'm thinking about the clarity in my professional career as executive, as a salesperson, just someone that value my job, right? Can you give an example of what clarity can bring me in my professional career?
Yeah. So for me, my business was dreamt years before it manifested. I had no idea what it would look like. But I remember about 15 years ago, I had a vision of having a business that would support small businesses, that I would be an advisor to businesses, that I would be on stages. There was a lot of clarity around what I wanted. And I remember writing this down and then reading it. It's like, who do I think I am? Like, there's no way any of this is going to happen. Like, who am I? And there's nothing I have to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
But the vision was there. It was a knowing.
Mm-hmm.
The same. And I we're having this conversation in 2023. I don't want to predict the future, but I would love to put in record right now that I have a knowing of what's going to happen in 2033.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? But I've always had a knowing that after I'm 51, that after I turn 60, I would be an author of novels, historical novels, and that I would speak and that my books are going to move people. I've written some books. It's not what I do right now, but I have this knowing that my last part of my life is going to be as a writer. And I almost can say it's going to happen because it's such a strong knowing. How is it going to happen? Will I make money? Will I not? How many books? I have no idea. But I know that I'm not just going to be writing when I want to, like I do now. Like, writing is going to be my life after I turn 60. And so if you are a salesperson and you have, or you want to be a salesperson, like for example, I'm talking to my son.
Mm-hmm.
He's 19. He's in college.
Mm-hmm.
But he's starting to understand that who he is
Mm-hmm.
and what his skill set is. And he's studying business.
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking about the concept of sales. And he said, well, I think my future is in sales. I like the idea of doing this and building relationships. And so he's starting to craft a vision for his professional career. And the clearer and the more intention,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to use the word focus, but it's not the right word. It's intention.
Mm-hmm.
You put to the dreaming of who you are becoming,
Mm-hmm.
personally or professionally, the more guarantees you're going to have that you're going to get there. But also, it's just going to be an effortless process because you will wake up one day as a successful salesperson, for example, knowing that it didn't happen because you woke up when you got a job one day. You have been actually working towards it inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the clarity really helps in crafting or creating pretty much anything in your life, your business, your position, the job you land. Yeah.
Having clarity and vision helps also with regards to paying attention. It's like very often when we're moving with our life and we're focusing on our job, let's say, whatever I'm doing, right? There are some people that are skipping through some things. So they're not paying attention to things around them. Like, for example, if I'm in sales, I'm not paying attention to marketing. I'm not paying attention to how, for example, other people are managing people, right? How managers are working or how products are being made, right? Because I don't have clarity into where I'm going with my career, right? So when you gave an example of being like an author and a novel writer, right? I'm sure that with you having that clarity into what you wanted to do when you're 60, now you can pay more attention into how to get there, right? So now when you read someone else or you're picking things and you're just noting them and putting the note and intention on learning those, because without that, you're never gonna have, the successful career as a novelist, right? But now since you know that, hey, this is what my intention is, I'm going there, then I can pay attention to details right now with everything that is. And there are some people that I know that paying attention as they go without kind of having the clarity, but these are very rare things, right? Very rare. And most of the people, they just don't pay attention to things around them.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And it just happened. I've discovered a new author a few months ago. My mom gave me a book and I loved it. I've read everything she's written. She actually has passed recently. But I'm seeing like, oh, that is a framework, a way of approaching the topics. By the way, the topics I want to talk about are already in the works. Like I have, you're going to laugh, how many? 10 of these on my desk right now. Mm-hmm. Because for whatever reason, this is the year I'm working on this. These are recordings from my grandparents.
Oh, okay.
That I did in 1990 because I knew I was going to be a writer.
Oh, wow.
And so I asked them, or maybe it was later, 1995, I asked my grandparents to record their lives. And I don't know that I'm going to write their story because I don't want to, but it was like something that I asked. And now I know that their story will be showing up in my books one way or another.
Of course.
Whether it's fiction or non-fiction, whatever. But I've been collecting the ingredients of my reality when I'm after 60. And what happens that I want to kind of expand from what you say is not just that we notice, is that we start talking about it. Like I'm talking about this with you, right? Maybe someone will listen and say, oh, well, I know this. Like you actually, when you not only notice and pay attention, but in safe spaces, you speak into it.
Right.
You begin to speak things into reality. Mm-hmm. And not because you think that person's going to help you or you're going to have a solution, because you're actually not looking for anything right now. But if you share it in the right moment with the right person, you'll be surprised how you begin kind of now turning on the faucet of the manifesting.
That's a great point. And that's just going back to the opening when I said, if you want something, you have to communicate it well. So with this, you communicate to reality what you want for this to happen, right?
Exactly. All ideas, all creations began with someone giving some idea, some thought, some air, like air, meaning putting it out into the world. Every one of them.
I mean, my partner, we always talk out loud, whatever ideas he or I have, or any thoughts or any feeling, and just kind of spreading it and, making it reality. And some ideas are great, right? That's going to be embodied into something, and some are not, but you talk them through out loud, not kind of keeping them inside you, right? Interesting. If we can tie this clarity approach to businesses, do you have any examples for kind of clarity in the business, or the businesses that have clarity as the part of their culture and the part of their operation, and those that have not that clarity? How does that affect the business?
Yeah, and you would think that it's complicated, and it's not. It's not easy, but it's very simple. As a coach, I've worked with people and organizations in identifying what are their values. And let's define what a value is. A value is something that when it's present in your life, you feel great, everything works, everything flows. And when it's not present in your life, something feels like it's missing. And so usually when I work with organizations, I would invite them to find their top 5 values as an organization. It could be something like aesthetics, commitment, quality, leadership, belonging. Like, I'm just using words. And organizations that have clarity around those top 5 goals or values, values. They communicate those values to every member of the organization. And then they ask themselves, in every action, in every decision, in every product they launch, in every new initiative, marketing, communications in marketing, are we honoring these 5 values, or most of these? Or are we not honoring, stepping on them? I always say you never will have, it's a mountain without a top. So you're either walking towards honoring a value or walking away from it. There's no perfection. So it's really more about having that clarity of, these are the 5 values that makes us who we are and what we stand for. And so it's really having every single person in the organization asking themselves, is this decision honoring that or not? And when you have that, as I said, it's simple, not easy.
Right.
Because really, it's finding 5 values. It's not like a long owner's manual. It's not like the biggest SOP of the world. On the contrary, the longer, the harder to honor. So it's really about, what are the top 5 values, and are we honoring it or not?
There's a entrepreneur, Ron Lovett, and maybe you're gonna listen to our conversation. And he wrote a book about the values, right? And in his book, he mentioned, or he talked about how to create the values for the organization. And what I like about his example, and this is to your point, when you have those 5 values and you have clarity on them, you also need to explain them in a detail that every person in the organization should understand them. And you can use as an example, like a storytelling, right? So as detailed as possible, you can kind of explain and package that. So it's not just the word, hey, our value is family first, but how you can imply that into perspective for every person in the company with regards to kind of like a storytelling. Then everyone will say, oh, this is relatable for me. I understand now how that's one. And that kind of stuck with me. And whenever I'm, working on the values and on some of my businesses, I always kind of go back to what wrong example was, and kind of creating the story about each value to be very clear about what those values are, and you put them into perspective, right?
Yeah, one of the values in my organization is collaboration with clients or with our team. And what does that mean? The backstory of our team is that my team is all women, and we're all mothers. And part of my commitment has always been to support working mothers, and especially single working mothers. So many of my team members may not be single right now, but when they joined, they were either going through a divorce or they were single. And so for us to collaborate is not just to collaborate on a project and, be responsible. It's like, for example, right now we have one of our team members who has a child with special needs who doesn't have daycare. Like, because of his special needs, he wasn't able to be taken care of in a summer camp. And so she has no childcare. She's going through a divorce. And she will not be fully operating back at work until August 8th, when her child goes to school full time. And so what we've done is we've rallied around her, and we are working with her to say, okay, what hours can you work? And can we unpack your schedule so that we can support you and collaborate with you as you go through this transition with your child? So that's an example of how we honor the value of collaboration.
That's a powerful example. I specifically asked the question about the kind of business clarity because I wanted to segue into this topic that we kind of touched base briefly last time we spoke with you. And I wanted to start off with the quote of your quote. So last time we spoke, you said to me, and I specifically have that kind of written because that was a very powerful quote for me. So you said, there is a fear hustle mode going on in the world, and nothing worth is created from this energy.
That's true.
So can we kind of ponder on this quote and tell me, what do you mean by this?
Fear hustle mode. So what I mean by fear hustle mode is that we are creating not for the intention of creating powerfully, but we are creating to not be left behind. We are creating out of fear. We're creating out of outrunning our competition. We're creating out of getting the next client. We're creating from a place of lack. You can even, go all the way, fear comes from lack. So we're creating from the place of lack. And I would actually challenge ourselves to even use the word creating, because creating is a word where you actually create something that doesn't exist. And while, yes, you're creating something that doesn't exist, but I would say it's not so much creating, but we are reacting, using fear and hustle to react to what we think we need to do. And then we take an action. And so giving it the word creation is giving it too much power, because I believe creation as an ingredient has intuition, has intention, has a vision, and has the goal of impact in it.
When did we make the wrong turn?
That's a good question. When did we make the wrong turn? And I'm experiencing this specifically in every market, but in the online digital market, in digital marketing specifically. And we made this turn. There's been a few instances, and we're about to be in a new inflection. I think this conversation is very timely. When I graduated from college, and we're going to go back a little bit, but in 1996, I graduated from college in Argentina. And my graduating thesis in Spanish was marketing on the internet, relationship marketing. I don't know if I shared this with you.
No.
It was the only paper in the world written in Spanish at the time on the topic of what to do with the internet. There was a lot of documents and books and papers on what the internet was, very few in Spanish, but mostly in English. But nobody was talking about the use of the internet for marketing purposes. In 1996, this is before Amazon. Amazon was born in 1997.
Right.
This is before pretty much anything.
Yeah.
You had the dial-up emails. You were probably a baby. You're probably very young.
3 years old. I was 3 years old. Yeah.
You were very young.
Yeah.
So I wrote this paper, and for years, I actually had requests from all over the world to have the paper. And if I were in the hustle fear mode of today, I probably would have hoarded it. I would have published it, and I would have sold it, which is nothing wrong in selling books. But at the time, the internet was a place of collaboration. And I had written my thesis with people contributing to it, to my thesis from all over the world on their experiences in using the internet to reach customers. Very baby steps. And so my thesis there was marketing on the internet, relationship marketing was what it was the internet is not going to be a replacement of marketing. It's going to be a channel. It's like you had a small road, now you have a highway. But you still have to drive the car. You still have to pay attention to the stop signs. You still have to like make a map and know where you're going and all that. And so I think fast forward 15 years, 20 years, if we get to 2020, well, 15 years will be about 2020. Yeah. Or no. Yeah. More or less 15, 20 years. And now the internet for marketing is all over. We have the concept of social media platforms where we can have communications and conversation with our customers. And we have moved away from the relationship side of marketing because we have said, okay, digital marketing, I can just send an email and people will buy from me. I'll just bombard these people with the email, forget that they're humans and that I'm just kind of drowning them on my emails in their inbox and the consequences that I will have. And so we became kind of like abusive of this new way of relating to our customers instead of seeing it as a great tool to come close. And we are actually already in the middle of the new one of this is AI. AI is allowing us to create content zillion times faster than we've ever created, or we think we're creating content. We're producing something, words of some sort.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's good or bad. I would say for the most part, it's a tool. It's not the replacement of a human having an intentional creation of content. But people are just using it from the fear hustle mode because I now can move faster than anybody else in my industry. So I'm just going to let AI write all of my whatever and publish. Again, I love AI. It's an amazing marketing tool, but it's a tool. And so where do we lose track of all of this is when we start looking at the progress or technology around us as a new thing versus a tool. It's just a better drill to drill a hole. It's just a better dishwasher to wash the dishes. Right. But there's still humans involved. Like there's humans who need, like you can build the best dishwasher, will make all your dishes sparkle, but you're using a chemical that is bad for you when you use the dish when it's washed. Then you're forgetting the human on each side of it. I think, Michael, it's a forgetting that at the end of the day, we are humans having a human experience, and all of these are tools, resources, things that can make our life better, not the things that make our life. And that's, I think, when it all goes sideways.
And that actually brings us to the next quote that I have of yours. So your quote is, "We've come full circle to a moment in our society that the only way to succeed today is to drop all the facades." Yeah, that's
good
a
time.
great
I don't
quote.
even remember saying that, but
yeah, I have that. I have it on in the recording. So we're gonna do the clip, but now instead of you, I will be telling you this on the clip. But this is your quote. So why do you think we built a facade in the first place?
we build the facade to belong. I mean, I don't think it's a facade that is malicious. I think we have an interpretation of what the world wants from us. It's an interpretation. And we build ourselves to fit into that interpretation. But what we are seeing now is that interpretation might have been off. And that what the world needs is this kind of, back to what we were just talking about, is that it's humans having a human experience with other humans. And so every layer of facade or deep makeup disconnects us from the other human having a true experience of us, an authentic experience of us. Now, this doesn't mean, oh yeah, go on Instagram in your pajamas without washing your face and take everybody on a tour of your morning routine, including the bathroom. It's like, no, that's gross. No. But it does mean that you can approach conversations from a place of authentic sharing of what that experience looks like for you without making a story of what it wasn't. And most people show up with saying, oh yeah, I'm a millionaire with a millionaire business and it's been great, wonderful. Well, no, chances are it's been an experience. It is. I wouldn't judge it wonderful or not wonderful. It's an experience. And there are lows and there are highs. And there's moments of expansion. There are moments of whatever emotion comes through. But an experience doesn't have to be judged as perfect for it to count. On the contrary, the more range of emotion you have in any journey or adventure, the more we expand. And the more range of emotion we can experience, the more range the wider the capacity is to be with others experiencing what they experience.
This season, I'm speaking to a lot of really great, bright people. And when I'm doing my research for the guest, I see everyone being very authentic in a way who they are. And they're so different with the different values. But while doing the research, I see them. So before actually even talking to a person on the interview, I can feel the energy of that person, what they're standing for, because of how they create their own digital self on the internet, being authentic, right? And I think that's one of the factors why this or that person is successful, right? In a way, because you see that authenticity, right? Now, question for you, maybe you can share some thoughts on the subject. How do one get rid of the facade?
First of all, I think that the people that you're interviewing, that you can walk into an interview already knowing the energy you're going to experience, it's a testament to who you're picking. And understanding that how we do anything is how we do everything. And so you can learn a lot from someone by just watching how they interact with a waiter in a restaurant. Or if let's say that I'm here and my child comes and interrupts me, how I react to that, you can probably learn more about me in that microsecond than in the whole hour-long interview. So how do we get rid of that facade? First is acknowledging that it is one. First is usually what happens is, and we've all gone through this to some extent, but there's a moment in our lives where we feel empty. So what happens when we operate the world with a facade is that we are not connecting with people and people are not coming into our lives. So over time, your emotional glass is going to dry down because you're not being filled up by the interaction with other humans. So I think it really comes down, it's not something we do. It's first we have to be aware that we are holding a facade and what is the cost that facade is having in our lives, and then begin to unravel that. And how do you unravel is one honest conversation at a time.
As you just pointed out, it's the tool for us to start belonging, right? And very often the professional facade is I go on LinkedIn and I create this AI written post on marketing. Why is that? Because I want to belong to thought leaders of marketing, right? I wanted to belong to that group, right? Maybe I'm not part of that group, but I wanted to belong there and I'm using all the tools to get there, right? How do I drop that facade, right? I would ask myself a question about who do I actually belong to and whether I belong to them, right? And what I'm doing to belong and what I'm not doing, and generally what intention I get from there and what energy I get. And then actually talking about the energy, last time we had the brief chat, you mentioned an interesting concept of push energy and pull energy.
Mm-hmm.
I also have that with me, and I want us to also ponder on this for a minute. Can you explain to me what is the difference between push energy and pull energy?
I'm gonna stay within the context of marketing because I think that's where that term is mostly used and understood. But push energy is where we are pushing, let's say, content, products, services onto people. We are just, as I was saying, digital marketing, let's bombard your inbox. 100 emails in one day or in 3 days so that you can buy and it's the last chance. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a balance conversation. So push is when you literally just dump everything out there, hoping something sticks, really, to be honest. But in the process, imagine that it's push energy in whatever format it shows up. And push energy is push energy. Like you feel pushed. That's it. The experience on the other side is someone is pushing me. I cannot see this, but I can feel that I'm being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
Versus pull energy is creating experiences or ways where we can connect, communicate, interact with the world around us, with our market, in the case of marketing, and create reasons, hooks, triggers, or opportunities for the market to want more from us and therefore pull information from us. And so, and it's right in the line, in aligned with the concept of marketing, relationship marketing. Pull energy, what does pull energy create? It creates a relationship between a brand and a consumer. Because now the consumer is intentional and active with the brand, and that is what I call a relationship. When two people or two entities are committed, engaged, and active in being together in one way or another, connecting. So simply by having someone take your lead magnet, that's a pull strategy. In push, the consumer is passive, and you almost it's kind of like one of those strategies that it never truly works in the long run, because by the time, so you're pushing to get a sale, let's say. And so the first action of engagement that you're expecting the consumer to make is one with their credit card. It's almost an impossible. Like if I don't get someone to download my lead magnet or ask to be on a call with me, the chances they're gonna pull their credit card is almost non-existent.
I wanted also to tap into your entrepreneur experience, especially with regards to advanced research and also last time we briefly chatted about your exit, right? That you had, and so when we're gonna go there, and maybe we're gonna get some context to the listeners. So the deal was made last year, right? 2022.
So actually, no, the deal was made in 2020. There's a couple of steps. So I created a product that was under my company that was interesting to another company. And so I was able to to partner with this company to launch a product.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year, what happened? Another partner came in, and I exited as a partner in that company. And so this was what is, and I talk a lot about this. What is fascinating about this is that in the digital business world or in the service professional world, it is an intangible space.
Right.
And in some ways, it's you or your team who create a service and you're known for it and people trust you and that's it. So to transcend that or to translate that into another team can be really difficult. But what makes an intangible tangible is the intellectual property and the SOPs, the standard operating procedures.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how that, company and exit happened, because it had enough tangible SOPs that was able to stand on its own. And I've continued to be involved, and I'm still involved from a different place. But it is the concept of thinking an idea that is intangible, that doesn't have, if you want, assets, physical assets, and translating that into an exit strategy.
I mean, we can name the names, right?
Yeah. So it was Advance Your Reach, and then we turned it into 10x Stages.
10x Stages. So you've kind of sold that product to Grant Cardone, right?
Yeah, through my partner with Pete. Yes.
Through the partner of Pete. Okay. The reason I kind of tied the pull push energy and this particular block was that, like, in my understanding, or in my opinion, like, Grant is on 10x is associated with like a push energy, right? And your universe is about pull energy, right? So how these things two coexisted in the transition of the product, and now you are evolving into that? Are you trying to adapt, or actually there are more pull energy there than the push energy? So can you kind of give the context to me?
Yeah. I mean, it's always a partnership, and everybody learns from each other. And there's when you merge organizations and teams, you're always compromising and learning from each other. And I think the situation here is exactly that, is that, and there's a lot of companies under this big company, and we actually have maintained the kind of the culture of 10x Stages. And what we offer really is a pull strategy service, because Stages is a pull strategy service, meaning that when you speak on a stage, you're bringing your message to audiences,
right? And
then you invite them to take an action, and that's a pull strategy. And so what is happening is we're bringing this type of energy into this partnership.
Interesting. Okay. And again, I'm just hypothetically thinking out loud here is, 10x started with a lot of the push energy, a lot of message going out, right? But now, obviously, for the business to continue growing and transforming, right, or transcending, as you've mentioned, that the energy is being transmitted from the push into pull energy with regards to reprioritizing, adding more products, adding more partnerships, and creating more kind of meaningful relationship in a way, right?
Yeah, and remember, we're just 10x Stages is one company. We don't actually have any influence or interfere in all of the other companies under the big, which might continue with their own strategies.
Yeah, of course. And it also brings me to my next point. I think that was one of the interviews that you gave, or one of the articles or posts that you wrote, but there was this idea of complementary idea. So let me explain. So you spoke about the fact that whenever you're building a service or a product, you have this many ideas just flying around, and people are executing those ideas, and there's so many of those. And what your point was that you recommend people to take action on the ideas that are complementary, to then execute on those to expand on your value proposition. So can you speak to me in more detail about this approach? What did you mean? And this is exactly to the point of your deal with Advance Your Search, right? So there was sort of like an idea that you expanded into a product that led you to having that exit in there?
Yeah. So there's a couple parts here. So first of all, as entrepreneurs, many people listening, we have a gift and a curse. And the gift and the curse is creativity and ideas. And it is a gift. It's truly a gift. The curse is not knowing, is knowing where to act and where to pass.
Mm.
It's almost like having the problem of too many opportunities. It can be a problem. Like too many choices can be a problem too. And so it's always like if you are focused and you have a clear vision of what you want to create in your business, and you have 15 different ideas coming at you every single day, two things. First, I've learned throughout the years that I sit on my ideas and I let my ideas haunt me. So I can have an idea like this, and if it keeps coming up and interrupting my day or my nights, my dreams, for a period of time, it's like, okay, I will listen to it. Like my writing idea. It's something that I've known all my life, but now I've created a plan for it. And I told my writing idea, I said, I will not be ready for you until after I'm 60. Why? I don't know why. Maybe because the kids are older. I don't know why. But that's how I compartmentalized. And so first is knowing which ideas are for you. And so I let my ideas simmer for a little while. And if it keeps haunting me, I was like, okay, I'll pay attention. That's number one. Number two, then I want to be honoring the vision and the project that I'm in, the company that I'm in. And so I will ask, is this an idea that can complement or add value or expand the value proposition of the business that I'm involved in or the business that I'm involved in? If it's yes, then okay, let's explore and let's do the due diligence. The other part of this, Michael, is that there's a lot of ideas that I get and many of us get that are not for us. And so I once, someone said to me, why are you so generous with the ideas? Because I'll run into someone and say, oh, I have an idea for you. And they're like, okay. And then I'll say it. And they're like, oh, that's brilliant. I'm going to go do it. And actually, I've had people lately who email me and they said, do you remember the thing you told me 5 years ago? And I'm like, no. Well, let me remind you. And let me tell you that now it's a blah, blah, blah $1 million idea. It's like, wonderful. Yeah. It was not something I was not going to execute on. It wasn't either I wasn't interested or it was whatever. Right. But it was meant to exist in this world. And the right person I ran into the right person and I shared it. So there's understanding what are the right ideas for you at the right time. And two, coming from a place of abundance and knowing that the ideas are meant to exist with or without you. And that sometimes if your gut is telling you to share that idea with the world, then that's the right thing to do.
And this actually brings me to my next question about ideas worth sharing, right? I think it's a great segue. And here I wanted to talk about your experience working on the TEDx platform, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know, like, what's your verdict on the platform? Like, being from the inside and working with all the people, like what's good, what's bad about the platform? And is this the best we can do with like ideas sharing as the platform, or there's something that we still need to work on?
Yeah. So TED and TEDx, their taglines are ideas worth spreading. And I was an organizer for 3 years. I ran one of the largest events here in the East Coast. It was an amazing experience. I believe it is still a platform for speakers to share great ideas. Now, you're going to find some good ideas and bad ideas, some good events and bad events, and we can talk about that all day long. But as a concept, it revolutionized a few things. It revolutionized speaking because it demonstrated that we don't need hours and hours to be inspired by an idea. And in that sense, it's just spread, let's say, we can say that it spread ahas around the world much faster than anything else had ever spread ahas around the world. And what I mean ahas is it has helped us open our eyes to so many things that we didn't know that we didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's the first part of transformation is learning what you don't know that you don't know, and you now get into the journey of learning. It never will, because I've actually had these conversations within the community. It was never intended to be a platform to act on ideas, although they've had some initiatives that have come out of it, but it was never intended to be an idea acting platform. It has always been, and it has stayed that way, because at some point there was some challenges to TED and TEDx of, well, this is great, but where's the change? It's like, well, the change comes from the people who are inspired to take on one of these ideas and change the world. And many people have, actually. Right. But the platform itself, it's a radio. It's think of it as a radio. What is a radio for? A radio is for spreading a message. So it's a radio in different formats. And I believe that it's still a powerful way of spreading ideas. Nowadays, I mean, it started, when was it? Like, I think it was early 2000 when the first one started, or before that. And then TEDx started in 2010. The world has evolved. There's so many other outlets, there's so many other ways. It's still a valid platform, but it's not the only platform anymore.
Right. Like podcasting, right? One of the
platforms. I was just going to say, podcasting I love podcasting, especially what you're doing in this type of interview, Michael, is because we don't have an agenda other than an agenda of being together in an authentic, powerful, and thought-provoking conversation. That's it. I can't fake anything I say. You can't either. Like, there's no room for facades because nothing's scripted. Yeah. And so I think podcasts on a longer form, it's a great way for communicating and connecting with the world out there that wants real, authentic conversations.
Like, we started a conversation with again, going back. So if you want something, you have to communicate it well, right? So I think that TED and TEDx as the platform help to, as you said, translate as a radio, like communicate ideas that people wanted. And some people who heard that idea and then, or those that spoke about that idea, right, talked through that idea, might be able to implement that idea one way or the other, right? I loved what you said about what was your motivation, why you did that in one of your interviews. You said that helped you to hanging around big ideas.
Yes. So when I decided to take on the TEDx event, I had already been involved with TEDx and I've already been involved with an event. And I was in a time of my business that I was struggling to find my path. I had no clarity. And actually, this is something that I share with clients and people a lot when you're stuck, when you're lost. And I was in that place and I asked myself, what would I do for free all day long? And I will constantly ask myself that question, not because I will do it for free all day long. Chances are you'll make a lot of money when you answer that question, in an authentic way. But for me, asking myself that question was, I want to be with people with big ideas. I want to be in the same room with them. I want to be in conversation with them. And that's when, and literally as I was asking myself those questions, a group of people in the city that I live reach out to me saying, I know you were part of this. We would love the city to have a TEDx again. Would you be willing to lead it? And it's back to the beginning of this conversation, Michael, when we talked about, the clarity of what we want and the clarity of the vision, is that when we are in this increase for ourselves, and you said, if you're not in that inquiry, if you're not in clarity or looking for clarity, you will miss the signs, you will miss the chances, you will miss opportunities because you're not in the same wavelength. Yeah. Dana Wilde calls it unconscious ignorance. When you are in the inquiry, then you will get a call from someone randomly that says, oh, I've been thinking about you because of this. And if you were not in the inquiry, you would be like, oh, no, that's not for me. But because you are there, you're more open to following the cookie crumbs to your next adventure or your vision.
Makes sense. When I think about TED and when I think about just, people sharing ideas, most of us, we never share ideas. We share stories, right? Because we come to a place from the storytelling standpoint, right? Every one of us has a story, and some of those stories are translating into ideas, right? And you spoke about this, but I specifically wanted us to stop for a few minutes on and discuss this for the listeners. How do I extract an idea from a story? How does it work?
It's a really good question. So I always say that stories are a tool or tools that we use in communicating an idea. And so if I tell the story, I want to give you a very tangible example. Like back to the push and the pull, if I tell a story of how actually I had a client who was a great client of mine for years, and she heard me on a podcast, which you would say it's a pull strategy. I didn't do anything because I didn't even know she existed in the world.
Yeah.
She heard me in a podcast and then found me, maybe through the show notes, maybe through whatever, but had the initiative to find me, send me an email, ended up working with me. That's a pull strategy. And so if I were to tell the story of this woman that found me through a podcast, I can stay and say, oh, I had a podcast. Podcasts are great. I had this client find me through a podcast and we had great work together. But if I stop there, I'm not sharing the essence of that story, which is, well, I believe that the best way for me to find the right clients is to bring myself out into the world in an authentic way and create the opportunity for them to find me. That's the idea.
That's
the idea is to create an action that is intentional, that is thought through for the purpose of creating an experience, an outcome, or a creation through that first action. So the idea is an essence that is a through line of your story.
So when you then tell the story, you intentionally then always kind of finish up with the idea of the story, right? You never leave the story itself. You always need to kind of finish up with the idea of the story, with the moral of it, and then it gonna reaffirm your point, right? And integrate into the minds and hearts, and then people would relate to,
would be able to
articulate the idea.
Yeah, and why would we do this? Is because we want people to experience ourselves, but most important, we want to give people the gift of the idea so that they can integrate them into their lives and create something new from them.
It's like the Christopher Nolan movie Inception, when the hardest is to integrate the idea, right? You can, so you need the 3 level of sleep to get the idea into the head. And once it's there, then you cannot get it out, right? Yeah. Especially, I know, like a lot of my male friends and myself, if we have an idea of something, and when you're ambitious, you just cannot, you're just stuck with that idea until you get it and try it, right? You cannot just live with it. You need that idea to try. Awesome.
Exactly.
Dolores, this has been great. Thank you so much for doing this. It's a privilege. And again, I have fun. And while we were talking, I was just, hey, when this episode will be released so I can share it with my team and with my guys, because one of the best conversations are the conversations that are thought-provoking, right? And I think we achieved one. I think we achieved that thought-provoking conversation for sure.
I love that. Thank you, Michael. And yeah, I know it's when we met to discuss being in this interview, I was excited about the opportunity to just show up and to just be with each other with the simple agenda of creating a conversation that can contribute to whoever's listening.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to this and something came up, just write it down and take take action around it.
Yeah.
Because it might just be what you needed today.